This is Marshmallo, aka Mello, and this is Mello's roadmap to success. And we are trying to use a tripod that's not very, very well. So if the camera starts drifting, it's not the Guardians filming it, it's just bad equipment. All right, so basically in this video, I want to just kind of summarize all the things we covered in this session. She's a puppy, she's 6 months old. She's a really good puppy, but she has some common basic puppy problems. One of them is mouthing, which she's not doing now. She does it when she's first excited. So anytime her teeth touch you, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, let me get you doing it. Of course you're not gonna do it now, are you? But anytime that she touches you with her teeth, you should yelp like, ah! Actually a little higher pitch, I usually more like, ah! And then I freeze for a second. Now, a couple things. If she gets really boisterous about it, a lot of times that means the dog is cranky and she needs a nap. So if you yelp and she gets more aggressive about mouthing and nipping you, that would be put her in the kennel or in her long-term confinement area. Oh, now you're going to do it, huh? Until she, and give her a chance to kind of take a nap, wait for her to take a nap before you let her out. Let me see, the other thing you can do is actually have an antler, a nylabone, or a carrot, or something hard and chewy. So if I just give the dog something, the dog's not that interested. But if I tease the dog with it, it becomes a trophy if they can take it away from me. So I'd like tap the dog with an antler here, tap here, get her kind of going around here. Let's use this thing. Yes. So you want the dog, of course she's not doing it now as much as I wanted to. It's the end of the session, she's a little tired. But when she does latch onto it, pull back and forth and let her pull it and let her pull it away from you, and then it becomes a trophy. She'll go over somewhere and chew on it. Now you should also get a piece of rope, a tug toy. Maybe different types of rope, usually pretty common. And then you basically play tug of war with the dog. Anytime that she touches you with her teeth, yelp like I described earlier, drop the deal and stop playing with her. So stopping giving attention or affection or playing or whatever it is a great way to help a dog understand that you don't like something. Giving them a treat or something when they do something you do like is a great way to teach them that you do like those things. So it's 50% on either side. So stopping with good timing and starting with good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog for them to have the ability to make the connection. Now, and it has to be consistent. Okay, so those are the 3 things, and then the last thing you could do is get up and leave the room. This is what we call this is a negative punishment. It means to deduct something. That's the negative part of it. So as soon as I put my teeth on the humans leave and close the door behind them, and I can't get them. It actually causes the opposite of what I want, is them to play with me. Now, I have videos on how to teach a dog to leave it. We didn't get to this in this session, but if that's a problem, let me know and I can share a video with you. I'm reminded because this is how I start off with doing that leave it exercise. I just have treats in here because I want to keep her up here so she looks good. I need help with this video to make it look cute. I don't have the cute factor that you do. Okay, so let's see. We also went over the importance of rules and structure. She really didn't have any rules, and she was able to kind of demand attention from her guardians on tap. And so that gives her the impression that she's in charge of us versus the other way around. So next time she nudges at you, barks at you, paws at you for attention, don't give her what she wants. Instead, give her a counter order. Ask her to sit. When she sits, pet her under her chin and say just the word sit. Avoid caveman talk, good sit. Oh, what a good sitter. Just sit. Or even good girl. And then basically, once the dog knows the command, I would say it twice. I would tell the dog sit. When the dog sits, then I pet under her chin and say the word sit after she sits to reinforce the first time during the command stage, second time during the reward stage. Anytime you use a treat, the dog should hear the command word immediately after it goes in her mouth. Sit, sit. And so that makes it a little bit brighter. Some of the rules we went over: not being allowed to be on the furniture. I talked about X mats to block the dog from doing that, but for the dog, the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. And so also we have a baby coming in the house. Not we, I say we because I'm always part of the group when I'm here, but the family has a first baby coming. And so mom is going to need some time on the sofa just with baby time. So we need the dog to practice. I'll give that for a crash. Practice doing what we want, and so practice being on the floor while mom is up here. And I've had some mothers get a simulate baby or just a baby that cries and just pretend like she's breastfeeding, so the dog has the ability to see that action. The dog knows it's not a baby, it can smell and hear and all that, but it's still practicing the behavior we want. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose: if the dog initiates contact with you and tells you what to do, instead of doing it, you tell the dog a counter order. When it does it, you pet the dog or give it a reward and then say the command word. Paycheck should be what you say if I come in the room and I see somebody's petting Marshmallow and she's standing. Somebody says, paycheck me, I stop petting, said sit. If she's already sitting, ask her to lie down or just do something to change her state. Then pet her on the chin and say, actually, I asked her to sit before you came in the room and she stood up when she heard you close the door, and I continued petting her and David said it's okay. And I'm David and I do say it's okay. It's just a gentle reminder, you may have forgotten to pet with a purpose. Even if you want to pet her, still make her do something to earn it. So she wants this treat. See if we can get a down out of her. Crash. And then I release the treat. So she has to do something, prepay. Either she comes and sits in front of you to prepay for attention, or she does something on your command to earn that affection. Passive training is waiting for the dog to do it on its own. So every time the dog comes to you, you should pet her and say, come. Every time she sits, pet her and say, sit. Every time she lays down, pet her and say, lay down. I usually use the watchword testify for this. So if somebody says testify to me, and I'm just kind of sitting there, I look at the dog, and whatever the dog is doing, I'm going to immediately pet. If she's sitting, I'm going to pet her and say, sit. If she's laying down, I'm going to pet her and say, crash. If she is standing there, I assume she just came, and I'm going to pet her and say, come. Remind me, I have to show you how to teach her how to establish a boundary. Noah, come up here, sweetheart. So if I wanted to get her off the furniture, what I would do is do this. Off. So I just toss the treat on the ground. When she gets down and gets it and licks it up, I say the word off. That creates a command word to get off. And then at that point, if she tries to come back up, I would block. Don't stand here like this, sit here like this. But once she jumps, try to flash her hand in the middle. Or put the X mat here, which will block her from doing it. And at the end of the 30 days or whatever the period of time is, then if mom wants to invite the dog up, mom is making the decision, not the dog making the decision. Let me see. Other rules that we went over, not being allowed to be in the room when we're eating food. This is why I said I'm going to have to show them off camera how to establish boundaries and teach the dog to stay out of the room when there's nothing but air blocking. Not being allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. Having to sit before we let the dog in or out any of the baby gates. Not letting the dog go out the door first ahead of us. When we're going down the stairs in the walk, we're going to stop every couple steps, and the dog has to stop with us, and then we continue. And on the walk, do a couple long walks. This, after you watch this, a couple days after the session before you're actually seeing this, but go for a walk and have about 20, 30 treats, and just plan on going around the block. Don't think of a long walk. Just go take no more than 5 steps. Sometimes you stop at 1 step, then sometimes 5, then sometimes 1, 2, 3. And then every time you stop, tell the dog to sit, pop a treat in her mouth and say sit, and then continue walking. After a while, you'll stop and she'll auto sit. And make sure first time she does that, you give her a couple treats and really make a big deal out of it. Right? Yes. We also went over yelping, or ways to disagree with her. Did I already go through that in this video? I think my brain is a little bit soft today. So for yelping, if she puts her teeth on you, the first thing you do, yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. I also went over the importance of exercise. I think part of her rambunctiousness is a way of saying I have too much energy. So I talked about starting an exercise journal, writing down the quantity or the length of time of the walk or the quantity of fetches. Getting an eye fetch would be amazing for her. I think it would help out tremendous. She can fetch with herself in the house, independent of us, especially once the baby comes. Getting her to do it, training her to do it before the baby comes is huge. I used a laser. She was interested, but she wasn't chasing it. She may get into it. She may not. We'll see. Also, scent games and different things along those lines are great ways to burn off the dog's excess energy. But when the dog comes up to us or is chewing under the couch, we should fetch 15 times, 20 times. The exercise journal is going to help us determine, okay, after fetching 10 times, she still went back under the couch and did whatever it was. So write down the negative stuff as well. And then, after she has 22 fetches, she just goes and camps out and crashes and just snoozes for a while. So now we distracted her away from the thing that we don't want her to do. We burned off that excess energy and created a positive association for her. Also, get her into using the carrots. If she's licking something, that's a precursor to chewing. So if she's licking this, get up and go to the kitchen, grab some baby carrots, knock on the floor over here when the dog turns his head to look this way, drop the carrots from about 6 inches, and then that'll attract her attention. She comes over and licks them up, and then when she gets done, she's going to walk away in this direction. She's forgotten about this. Let me see, what else do we have on the list?
Baby tips, mouthing and nipping, we talked about that.
All right, so baby tips. So I have a whole bunch of baby tips. When mom when the baby comes, well, first of all, do we ever take her to doggy daycare? I would highly recommend getting her used to going to doggy daycare. She's in season right now, so you have to be careful. Or dog walker, but dog daycare is ideal if you can. In her case, I don't know, because of this, we'd like to wait until she's after her second season, so really about 2 before we do that. But sometimes that's a problem with daycare. Now, once she's out of season, it's not so much of an issue. But getting her practice of going to daycare helps, because when mom's in the hospital, dad is going to be back and forth or working and doing other stuff. The dog's going to spend a lot of hours alone. And not that she needs help with that, but basically this will help burn off that excess energy. Dog sleeps 17 hours a day, so that means only 7 hours. So you're really going to sleep back there. We got to be careful. She's in season right now, so she's dripping a little bit. And I don't want to sit on it, but getting her used to going to daycare. That way, when the 3 days the mom's going to be at the hospital and dad's going to probably be spending there, she's at daycare all day long. Here, let's do it a little off. And so she's practicing going to daycare, and that's just normal, because I just do this maybe maybe a month or 2 before she starts going. Maybe take her once a week. And so she just gets used to it. She makes buddies there she's comfortable with. And that way, when we come home with the baby and we put the dog in daycare, when she comes out of daycare, she's going to be exhausted. She's going to be easy to deal with. And now we put you guys in position to succeed, because you're going to be focusing on the baby and all the other stuff, all the other things. Now, the Guardian, they have a baby room set up, and I'm going to show off camera how to establish boundaries, but they should practice going in there daily and doing things where the dog is not allowed inside and the door is open, so that she has to restrain herself. She needs to practice that behavior before the baby comes. Now, when the baby comes, I'd like to have dad or mom ask the nurse to take a hand washcloth and to wipe the whole baby down, not with the afterbirth, just to get the baby's scent on it. Then what you do is come home, let the dog sniff the towel. As soon as it sniffs it, take it away and drop a treat on the ground. And you're going to be doing this back and forth. So at first it's just here, sniff, and as soon as she sniffs, drop a treat. So what we're doing is creating a positive association. I smell the baby and I get the best treat I've ever had. So now we're helping the dog meet the baby without the presence of the baby, and all the commotion and the crying and all the rest of that stuff are going to make it more difficult. So now by the time the baby comes home, oh yeah, that's Lucy. I've smelled Lucy before. We can also do other things like mom is going to have a shower if she hasn't already, and you're going to get all sorts of crazy lotions. Butt paste, I always think is funny. But all these different lotions. A lot of women put like coconut or some sort of oil on there to prevent stretch marks. All that stuff has a smell. But when the baby comes, you have ointments and all this stuff for the baby, and everything is a smell to dogs. So once you do the shower and you have all those different things, take a little bit of the butt paste and put a little bit here and a little bit here. Or wherever, somewhere that's accessible. So the dog's going to smell that independent of the baby. And so that way, when the baby comes, I've already become desensitized to these particular smells. I've also become desensitized to not being able to go in the room with them. I've practiced not being on the couch with them 24/7. I also showed the Guardians how to teach a dog to leave the room and how to name each individual room. And I would suggest doing that. So to do the leaving, take a treat like this, tear it in half, touch the dog's nose, throw it right outside the door. When the dog goes and licks it up, say the word out, and then it'll come back, do it a second time, do it for all the doorways in the house. Then do it repeat the whole process, but this time outside the room, throwing into the room. It just means to leave a room. Then I would also name each individual room. So the Guardians here work from home, so maybe we call the room over behind the camera business, and we call this room pleasure. Or putting a dog bed outside the dog bed, the nursery, and then practicing having the dog go there. So what I do is I toss a treat on there and the dog licks it up. We call it Jamaica. Every time the dog licks up the treats, it hears the word Jamaica. And do this with about 10 treats in a row. Toss, 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 and let her get it and then walk off before you throw the next one. Then after a while, what you do is just leave one there and don't point it out. She saw it that time. And when she licks it up, we say the word Jamaica. So now she gets used to Jamaica means if I go to this dog bed, I get the tastiest treats I've ever had. Now we have a commandable word for her to go out there, to go to that particular location, right? Yes, such a cutie. Thank you. Let me see, what else? I had a bunch of other baby tips that are slipping my mind. Yes, the baby should give the dog a lot of treats, she says. Now this excitement level, this sort of thing, tells me that the dog needs some excess energy, or has some excess energy, so we would take her outside or play fetch or whatever it is. That's okay. This is good footage. Off. Remember, everything gives you an opportunity to practice behavior, so that was really rambunctious. Well, I transitioned that into going off and rewarding the dog for getting off. The couch, that is. Now, I'm not petting her, and as soon as she gets down, off. I'm going to pet her. So I also showed the guardians how to teach the dog to drop. They were having some problems with fetch because they hadn't established the drop and they were pulling things away from the dog. So make sure we don't snatch or pull it away, get the dog to drop things voluntarily. I also went over how to teach her to be calm on the leash. I have a video for that, so if you forget how to do that, message me, I can share that video. I also went over how to use a martingale with a special twist of the leash to stop her from misbehaving on walks. I would go ahead and if you forget how to do any of that, message me. I have a video for that as well. Remember, if you're out on a walk and there's anything she's reactive to, don't force her to continue going towards it. That will make it worse. Always increase the distance. And if possible, you want to give her a treat. Now, she didn't like a baby stroller that we passed when we were out on a walk. Sometimes I'll take these treats. These are Tricky Trainer chicken liver flavored treats. Well, they're not flavored, they are chicken liver. And I'm gonna leave the bag here so you know what they are. So what I could do is some counter conditioning. Let's say that there's an area, playground, where there's a lot of kids and strollers that are walking by. Well, I can sit across the street and I let her chew on it. If you can see, I can direct where she looks by just how I hold the treat up or down. I'm holding it, if you notice, everything's below the nose. So that way I'm not blocking. A lot of people do it and they do it like this. Well, I'm blocking the dog's vision. So I take one of these and I squeeze them. You made it all wet, now it's hard to hold on to. And I'm gonna let her nibble on it while she's looking at the stroller crossing the street. So I see a stroller coming, I pull one of these things out, and sometimes you can get something bigger like a piece of roast beef. And then she's doing it as the stroller's going. She's watching it, getting these treats. And then as soon as the stroller goes away, the treat, either pull the treat away or pop it in her mouth, preferably pull it away if there's still a big chunk. So now what we're saying is when a stroller appears, you get the best treats you've ever had. As soon as the stroller disappears, the treats go away. After a while, she's like, can we get like a stroller parade going on? We're creating a positive association with that. Let me see, for the in season, look for some doggy diapers. It just makes things a lot easier. What else did we go over? Feeding, making sure the guardians are eating something first. Right now, they're leaving food out too long, and they're also pulling the whole bowl away. So remember, give her permission to eat. Use passive training for that. As soon as she, that was a little crumb, you didn't get it. As soon as she licks up, say the name of your favorite restaurant, your favorite meal, or whatever you want to call the command word for eating. Remember to come up with fun command words. We're going to have kids in the house. If you come up with these, if eating is meatball, or going for a walk is jogging or jaunt, or I'm not coming up with creative stuff now, but funny command words, it'll really pay off when the kids are having other kids over to visit. Let me see. The last thing is, I'm going to go over this with the guardians off camera, but the 3 ways that I disagree with the dog for doing things I don't want. First thing I do is I make a hissing sound like a cat. I have 10 hisses. I have level 1 hiss, which is like it's, if you want to watch her, I have a level 10 hiss, which is more like. So that's my way of saying no, don't do that, or don't even think about doing it. It's best to do that before she does the wrong thing. I hiss 1 time per incident only. Second thing I do is I abruptly stand up. When you stand up, that's your I mean business position to a dog. Your authority goes whatever direction your belly button is pointing. So when you stand up, your dog will take a step back, keep your hips pointed at the dog, and it's going to walk around the room to see, are you talking to me? If you pivot with your hips, then you're saying, yes, I am talking to you. Keep doing that until your dog stands still, sits, or lies down. As soon as he does one of those 3 things, take 2 steps backwards and only 2 steps backwards. Left, right, and then stop for 1 second. That's putting the period at the end of this doggy conversation sentence. So the second consequence, stand up abruptly, turn to face the dog. As the dog moves around, pivot until the dog stops moving, stand, sit, or lies down, take 2 steps backwards and pause for 1 second, go back to whatever you were doing. However, if whatever you're doing is doing what I'm doing now and sitting down, you should expect as you sit down the dog to come and challenge again. So you'd stand up and repeat that process. The third consequence I have involves marching directly at the dog, giving and taking territory. So the dog is approaching towards, and this is what you're going to use, I'm going to show you in a minute on how to keep the dog out of a room. When the dog starts moving towards the boundary, I'm going to rush towards the dog, or whatever it is I don't want. Rush. So the dog is, well, I better get out of the way or they're going to run me over. We want to give that dog almost a flinching experience. Keep marching at the dog deliberately. Don't stop your feet and don't slow down and stop. If you get where the dog is and the dog's still here, run into the dog. The dog needs to learn my job is to stay out of the human's way, and I'll talk about that in a second, not the other way around. We think of moving around the dog as a kindness and it confuses them. So basically, march towards the dog until the dog turns sideways or greater away from you. At that point, stop, go to the second consequence. Put both your feet together, pivot, stationary, 2 steps backwards, pause for 1 second, and sit back down. So those are how you can disagree with the dog before they do things you don't want without using other means. Now, if the dog is in your way, I want you to walk through the dog as if the dog is not there. Don't nudge the dog out of the way, walk into the dog. The dog needs to think getting out of the human's way is what I need to do for all humans. We think of moving around the dog as being nice or a kindness, but that actually confuses the dog into thinking, look, I have so much status. Instead of asking me to get out of their way, they're burning more energy to go around me. I am the queen. You're not the queen. And so this will help the dog learn a good choreography. When a human's coming, my job is to get out of the way, and that's going to be really helpful when the baby comes. Crash, passive training. Practice that. Don't use that when you're practicing going into the baby's room. When you remember, your authority goes whatever direction your hips are pointed at. So if I walk at the dog and make the dog leave the room, let's say this is where the boundary of the room is, and the room's behind me. I stop. I take a step backwards. The dog's going to start to come forward. I rush forward and make a hissing sound at the same time. And then as soon as the dog stops, I take a step backwards, back and forth. Never move backwards if the dog's moving forward. That's implied as giving up territory for the dog. So you're going to have to do this step forward, step back, step forward, step back. And eventually, when you step back, the dog's going to stay there. Pause for 1 second, then about a quarter second, then take another step back, left, right, and stop again. But keep your hips pointed at the dog. This is pretty good footage, so I'm not going to stop it. Is that still going? Okay. I guess I will stop it. So keep the footage going, or keep the, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Keep marching at the, so when you're marching backwards, if I get 3 steps away from the dog and sitting, and then I turn and walk into the room this way, now my authority is going that way, that's going to cause the dog to come in. Eventually you'll be able to get there. But at first, that's why it's important to do this before the baby comes. Step, step, pause, step, step, pause. And when you sit down, don't sit all the way in the chair. You have one of those great chairs yet? You can get one of those great rocking chairs, but when you sit in it, it's going to be hard to get out of it. So sit on the edge of the couch so you can bounce up right away. The timing of your corrections is everything. 3 seconds is your maximum. 1/3 of a second should be your target. Now, I also talked about the consistency of enforcing rules and also the psychology between humans and dogs when it comes to rules. They go through life probing, waiting for us to correct them, expecting us to correct them. We look at rules and breaking rules as a positive. The cop pulls you over for speeding and he gets you off with a warning. Yay, I broke the law and got away with it. That confuses dogs because they're probing, waiting for you to tell them no. So for these rules, make sure you do them consistently for at least 30 days, but as long as the problem is still going on. Make sure the guardians are eating something first. I think I mentioned that. Now, if you have questions for I also tell you, the guardian's already been doing this, but he's been practicing having the dog stay in the kennel. I would have the dog practice. She's so cute. I'm going to let her get away with it. And I'm petting. See, this is rewarding this behavior, which you definitely don't want to do. Practice being in the kennel when we're working is great. Practice being in the other room when we're watching TV in here is great, especially preferably with the door open. But even if we have to do it with closed, that's going to be important as well because there will be times where mom's going to close the door and be in here with the baby. Let me see, what else? The video above will go over how to teach the dog to stop basically jumping up on people. Make sure that anytime a guest comes over and she jumps up on him, they freeze, cross their arms, and look up. Now that probably was a little bit too quick. I should have made her sit and then wait a second and then throw it on the floor. Now I did throw it on the floor, directed her in off, but it was pretty close proximity. So you want about 3 seconds between those so the dog doesn't think. Jumping up and biting David in the back of his neck is what got me the treat on the floor. All right, Marshmallow, do you have any other questions for me? Mellow? Where's sweetheart? Well, this is Mellow, and this is Marshmallow's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. Right, Mellow?